Scotty's vaccine rollout. The vaccine rollout you have when you haven't got enough vaccines. Scotty's COVID Safe app. The $16 million waste of money that failed to find more than 17 cases. That's $1 million per COVID case. Hotel quarantine. The quarantine program you have when you make quarantine the state's problem, despite quarantine and biosecurity being a federal government responsibility. Scotty's Bring Them Home by Christmas plan for Aussies stranded overseas. The plan you have when you have no intention of bringing stranded Australians home. Ever. The MilkShake video. The weirdly sexualised consent video aimed at teenagers that you have when you don't want to mention sex and no one involved in reviewing and authorising the video has the slightest clue what consent actually is. Scotty's Emergency Response Fund. The $4 billion emergency funding you have when you announce an emergency disaster fund but don't spend a cent of it. Scotty's Bushfire Relief Fund. The $2 billion fund you have when it's just a notional fund and not actually earmarked for any recipients. Scotty's Attack Class Submarine Project. The $89 billion submarine project you have when your submarine replacement project is over budget, already technologically outdated, and who knows when it will be delivered. Scotty's Attorney General Christian Porter. The Science and Industry Minister you have when the highest law officer in the land has been alleged to have committed a heinous crime and consequently is no longer the Attorney General. Scotty's Aged Care Plan. The aged care plan you have when a Royal Commission into aged care reveals that saving the government money 20 years ago by letting the market decide on vulnerable Australians' care results in horrific abuse and neglect, but gigantic profits for private care providers. Scotty's Women's Summit. The action on sexual assault and inequality you have when you don't plan to actually act on sexual assault and inequality, but will appoint a Prime Minister for women and hold a talk fest instead. Joshy's Back in Black surplus. The surplus you declare when you don't actually have a surplus, just before a global pandemic destroys any chance you have of ever seeing a surplus in your lifetime. Modern Liberals. The MPs who profess to believe the science and want action on climate change, but vote with the climate-denying far-right rump of their party on everything anyway. Scotty for Marketing. The Prime Minister you have when you don't have an actual national leader. You just have an announcer-in-chief looking for his next photo opportunity. The Liberal National Coalition Government. The government you have when your government is only interested in lining the pockets of their donors and their mates, wants to punish poor people for existing, and has no interest in governing for the good of the country.